Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Delaney, I've been listening to your answers about your conduct in the St. Paul's case, and I have to tell you I'm having a hard time following what it is you're saying. You've said now several times that the school only wanted the court case to be tried in a court of law, not in the media. But your attempt to strip anonymity from Chessie was exactly an attempt to try this case in the media, right? It was an attempt to bring her name forward so everybody would know who she was. She's 16. Everybody would know exactly who she was, could look her up, could threaten her, intimidate her. I mean, this was an attempt to put her squarely into the media spotlight nationally, right?
Senator, thank you for the question. I respectfully disagree that the school's intent in trying to require the lawyers to try the case in the court of law was in any way intended to intimidate any of the parties to the case.
How can you say that when you knew full well that a 16-year-old girl would have her name published, would have reporters, no doubt, in her front lawn, would have people following her around with cameras everywhere? Her family's sitting here today. They've already been through hell. Your motion was an attempt to put them through further hell in order to defend your client, right?
Senator, I was an advocate for the school.
I understand that, but as advocates, I have been too. And as advocates, we make decisions, but we're responsible for those decisions. You made a decision here. You made a decision to try to strip a young girl of her anonymity, and you effectively succeeded because you bullied her into it. So she, unwilling to be intimidated by you, went forward and revealed her own name, which took, by the way, tremendous courage. And I'd just like to honor her for her courage in doing that. But you put her to that choice. You did. That was your choice. So that's fine. You made the choice, but now you're accountable for it. So let's have some accountability here. You deliberately did this in a way that would put her at risk, and that was your intent. Have you read the letter that she submitted to this committee?
I have read the letter that was submitted to this committee.
Let me read some of it to you. She says, and I quote, "I remember so clearly reading Michael Delaney's motion from front to back when I came home from my new high school one day, processing what it meant, and then defiantly stating to my parents that after everything I'd been dragged through, from anonymous death and rape threats on the internet to the betrayal of and backlash from my closest friends at school, I wasn't going to let Michael Delaney's dirty tactics bully me, then 16 years old, into shame and silence." She goes on, and this is important. "When survivors of sexual assault, harassment, and abuse come forward to seek some semblance of justice, there is an army of attorneys with a tried and true playbook of tactics to discredit, pressure, and manipulate survivors and victims into silence." Those were the tactics that you used, Mr. Delaney.
Senator, I respectfully disagree with that characterization of the role I played as an advocate in the case. The school agreed to allow the case to proceed with anonymity. I have...
No, you didn't. You filed a motion that specifically sought to strip her anonymity. I have it right here. I've read it, and I've read your reasons for doing so. The school didn't like the time that the parents and Chessie filed their lawsuit. You complain that counsel filed the complaints minute before the clerk of the court's office closed on June 1st, 2016. Well, I'm sorry for you, but I don't understand why your inconvenience about the time should mean that this young woman should have to surrender her anonymity and have her life. She's a survivor of sexual assault, let's not forget. That already happened. You knew that. Why should she have to have her life further destroyed because you didn't like the timing of the filing?
Senator, I represented the school in that case. I did not represent the Prout family. I understood what they went through. The school felt that the request to restrict the lawyers from trying the case in the media was compatible with her desire to proceed with privacy and anonymity.
I don't understand what you're saying. You filed a motion that sought to strip her anonymity. You told the court that it should happen because you didn't like the time at which her counsel filed their complaint because it put your school at an inconvenience. They had to answer reporter questions, you said. Frankly, that seems to me like a small burden to bear after what Chessie went through. So you made the decision. You forced her to come forward. She was brave and did it, and now you're accountable for that. And quite frankly, I'm astounded you've been nominated. I can't believe we're sitting here having this conversation today. And I, for one, will not support your nomination for these reasons. People who put sexual assault victims through this kind of torture shouldn't sit on the bench. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Rono. Senator Tillis.
Really? Okay. Mr. Delaney, thank you for being here. Tell me just briefly why you want to be a judge. I'm going to get to your experience and how you're moving to a circuit without any past experience. I want to know a little bit about your personal experience to make you feel like you're ready for the job. But you had to know coming into this hearing that the subject that's been covered by a lot of my colleagues would be addressed. So you had to go through probably preparation for the hearing, anticipating that. But just for somebody who has had a successful law practice, why make the move to being a circuit court judge?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I'm informed by my nearly 30 years of experience in public service and private practice in answering your question. On a personal level, I just love appellate law. I've done everything. I've done trials. I've done administrative law. I've worked on appeals. And the ability to ensure that cases are fairly reviewed for error is something I think is an area where I could contribute. I also believe that the opportunity to serve on the First Circuit Court of Appeals, in light of the varied background I've had, is probably the most significant way I could contribute to my country and represent my state on that circuit. And I also, when I think about why I want to do it, I understand that what judges do every day dramatically affects people, some for the good and some for the bad. And if I had the opportunity to be confirmed, I would dedicate the entirety of my mind, my heart, and my body to trying to make it right, knowing that every decision I made was going to impact people.
We've had a few nominees come before our committee, and I haven't heard anybody say anything about dumb tweets or papers or posts. So it looks as though your background on that score seems to be relatively innocuous, not rising to a level of asking you a question. We've had a lot of prior nominees come before the committee. They had a lot of writings. They had a lot of statements about how empathy needs to play a role in your job as a judge. Where do you fit on the notion that either popular opinion or empathy, the wants or needs of activists, should have any role whatsoever in your ultimate rulings?
Thank you for the question, Senator. If confirmed, I would change from being an advocate to adjudicating cases. And I think the areas of influence on a circuit court judge are very defined and narrowed. The facts of the case presented to me, open-mindedness, and hearing arguments from the parties to the case, not people outside the case. And then decision-making that involves clear reasoning and clear explanation for litigants as to why a fair and impartial decision has been made. I don't believe that outside influences have a role in that, Senator, and it's not a place that would guide me if confirmed to be a judge.
Thank you. The last question I have relates to the horrible incident with a police chief losing his life, several other officers shot. I think a review of that said that there were no one problem, but several problems that needed to be addressed. How has that changed in light of that? You were AG at the time, I believe?
I was, Senator, and I believe you're referring to the tragic death of Greenland, New Hampshire Police Chief Michael Maloney, who was shot and killed just days before his retirement, backing up a drug raid that went bad. When I was Attorney General and we lost Chief Maloney, I immediately commissioned an independent group of law enforcement officers to review that matter and ensure that we learned from it everything we could, having lost him in the manner that we did. They adopted a report that called for many reforms of the drug task force that oversaw that raid. We changed leadership in the law enforcement group that was in charge of that raid, and law enforcement as a community went together about
tình nồng thắm xuyên qua bao mái tranh, ngọt ngào dâng hương hương mái tóc xanh. Những tình mặn mà là những tình đơn sơ, quê tôi vẫn đẹp đẹp những tình ngây thơ. Chiều làng quê say sưa trong tiếng ca, người làng quê yêu bông lúa thiết tha. Những mẹ già ngồi trồng tre đùa xóm dưới, rung rung môi cười như thua còn đôi mươi. Anh ơi khoan hò khoan, trên sông con đò ngang. Khoan ơi khoan hò, em về chăm lo việc nhà thóc lúa vun vườn cà liếp dưa. Anh ơi khoan hò khoan, lúa chín tô mồ hôi. Khoan ơi khoan hò, tới mùa đơm bông, khơi ngàn lối sông gặt nhanh ta gánh về. Chiều tàn rơi trên đê nghe tiếng ai, hẹn hò nhau vui duyên thăm gái trai. Tiếng hò chơi vơi khi trăng ngả lá lơi, đêm khuya rộn ràng bao tiếng chảy buông lơi. Hàng dừa cao in mơ soi bóng sông, mộng ngày mai say sưa nhưng ước mong. Gái miền sông hương hẹn trai miền Cửu Long, hai ta ước thề xây thắm tình xuyên quê. Khoan ơi khoan hò, em về chăm lo việc nhà thóc lúa vun vườn cà liếp dưa. Anh ơi khoan hò khoan, lúa chín tô mồ hôi. Khoan ơi khoan hò, tới mùa đơm bông, khơi ngàn lối sông gặt nhanh ta gánh về. Chiều tàn rơi trên đê nghe tiếng ai, hẹn hò nhau vui duyên thăm gái trai. Tiếng hò chơi vơi khi trăng ngả lá lơi, đêm khuya rộn ràng bao tiếng chảy buông lơi. Hàng dừa cao in mơ soi bóng sông, mộng ngày mai say sưa nhưng ước mong. Gái miền sông hương hẹn trai miền Cửu Long, hai ta ước thề xây thắm tình xuyên quê. Gái miền sông hương hẹn trai miền Cửu Long, hai ta ước thề xây thắm tình duyên quê.